So one of the first things that we get into, and it's not really code, there's some, but not a lot, is doing the data range validation. And here we're just going to use some simple if-else statements to see if it gets into a certain range that we want. And I say that because we look at all the different data types that we have in C++, we could still jury rig some of them a little bit more, but the bad part is pretend we want something that can only go up to 10, integer-wise. Well, the best one's going to be probably our unsigned short, which would go from 0 to 65,000. But again, if we only went up like age for a human being, what, 0 to 120, maybe 140, just to be lucky, okay? There's still too much in here, so we would still have to back up that input, even though they would put in an integer. We'd have to still back it up with some type of if-else statement to say, okay, they put in less than 140, then probably legit. If it's over than 140, or a negative number, which really wouldn't work out, but still, we have to really use the if-else statements that you know already on further defining the range of that type of validation. So that's just one type of validation. But as we do this, we need to really pick the appropriate data type that works with all of these particular, applications, as I'll call them. Now, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do this. We'll go over this here in a second. It won't take you long. But you might have a question about one of them, and that's okay. And we'll go over that here in a minute. So if you have to take a wild guess at something, keep it in your head. I'll discuss it, and we'll move on from there. But go ahead and tell me what best fits, what data types best fit the information that I'm trying to gather, and we'll go over it here in a second. Now, the first one that we have in our overall assignment here, notice I try to give you a little bit more details, but telephone with no dashes. Now, I bet some of you went, int. Well, the bad part is that if we go over this, I have a best friend that lives in North Carolina, and his area code's 919, and then you do the 7 digits after that. That actually won't fit this. So I can't use int. So if he used unsigned int or something like that, then that would work out. Now notice, by the way, notice I said no dashes. Because if we did use dashes, I think you would know that we would have to still do a string, but we'd still also have to check the length of the string, and that's the range of that. We would have to check that the size of the data that they put in for a telephone number is what, 610? Be 12, including the dashes in between. So we'd have to check that. That's our data range. But again, I asked for no dashes. Social security number on this one. An unsigned int would still work for that, but again, notice we still have to worry about the size of the length. Let's see, that would be what, 9 digits on that one? Okay, so that would, but also I bet some of you are like, wait a minute, what about dashes in there? Now you know why it's highlighted. So when we're given data, we have to be very, very specific with our clients and with our superiors exactly what we're expecting in for the format of the data and the data range itself. The next one, date and a month. You know that's going to be, for date and a month, it's going to be up to, what, 31, from 1 to 31. So let's see, which one of these goes to 1 to 31? Well, we could do the unsigned short that we talked about before. We could try that out. I'm trying to think, the cares don't work as well as, but anyway. So we'll do it for that one. A yes or no answer. I'm not sure, where's Boolean on this thing? You know what, I'm rather surprised. There's no Boolean on it. I have to remember to fix that. But Boolean would be our best one when it comes to yes or no because, hey, it's yes or no. Days in a year, going back to our unsigned short again. So again, remember, the unsigned short gives us 0 and greater. So it does start at 0 and go from there. So again, that might be another check that we have to do is that the user doesn't give us 0 for a date in a month or days in a year. Days in a year might be legit having a 0, but see all these things I have to think about when it comes to this? I need you to think about that when we're starting our applications because we're going to try to break it. And that's exactly what you don't want to do. And there's been some expensive people, hackers that have broken things that, well, I'll leave it alone. But anyway, U.S. citizen, that's going to be, some of you may not know what that means, and that's fine. On this one, I meant if you are or not. So that'd be a Boolean. So move on from there. Passengers on a cruise ship. I had one student years ago said that was a float. I was like, how can you have half a human? And it started getting goofy from there. But anyway, this will again be another unsigned int short from 0, because there could be 0 passengers on a ship and up. And then a normal home loan, you may not be old enough for that, but that's okay. That's going to be, well, it's going to be a double or a float, but I know like people like having the double part, but hopefully it's more of a float because it's not as much. But the other ones won't accept any dots or periods for the cents that you have to worry about in your loan. So notice there's a lot of actual thought that has to go into not just the data type itself, but the data type might not be enough. You might have to do a range check just to see if it matched the data type, but now does it really fit the data for our application? So there's a lot of things you have to think about when using the correct data type for validation and for an application.